Welcome to another episode of Rise to Liberty podcast. So today's show is a makeup show for not having one yesterday. Typically we do shows on Friday. However, the wife and I had an opportunity to go see The Shining in IMAX. So I had to push back the show and wait to do it today. So first of all, I will say that going to see The Shining in IMAX was glorious. It was absolutely amazing. Somebody actually asked me if I would uh, write like a review of it, writing down some of the things that I noticed that were different. So probably going to be working on that the rest of the weekend while it's still fresh. Anyways, today's show, or this evening's show, it's a continuation of the Satanic Panic is Real series. Wasn't really sure exactly how to do this because although it is Satanic Panic is Real, a lot of the stuff we will be covering is West Memphis 3. It just, I mean, it's almost the same. It's almost the same subject, West Memphis ties into Satanic Panic ties into West Memphis. But there's going to be kind of a spin on it, which is why this is a continuation of Satanic Panic is Real. So one thing to note is that I will be working out of William Ramsey's Abomination. So once again, make sure and get yourselves a copy of this. It is one of the best resources on this case that I just cannot recommend enough. So first and foremost, we're going to start tackling this idea of Satanic Panic being a witch hunt, right? Because that is the overwhelming majority's narrative, is that none of this was real. It's just a witch hunt, right? So this comes directly out of Abomination. Not going to read the whole thing, but we're going to work through some of this because I think it is a really, really good introduction to a lot of this. There is no starting date for the witch hunts in Europe. Fear of spellcasters, sorcerers, and witches date back to the beginning of recorded history. A resurgence of widespread persecution of the practitioners of witchcraft rose during the later Middle Ages. Estimates vary, but somewhere between 40,000 to 100,000 people purported to be witches were killed during the witch trials. Often, torture was used to obtain confessions. The Catholic Church controlled ecclesiastical positions and based their condemnation of witchcraft upon the fact that individuals made a pact with the devil, making witchcraft a heresy against the Holy Roman Church. The methodology of witch trials varied from nation to nation, city to city. So first and foremost, I will say, just based on what the witch trials were, this literally is not a witch trial in any sense of how a witch trial took place back then. But most people will turn around and say, well, this is a modern iteration. This is a modern iteration of a witch trial. Okay. So that means that although people are not coming in and being tortured or literally being accused of witchcraft, you know, um, their reputation is being ruined by such claims, or um, people are saying things like, for instance, really where the witch hunt narrative comes from is a rise in reporting in child abuse cases, right? Like that's where it comes from. That's what they want you to think. 100%, 100%. Hello, hello. Thank you all for joining me tonight, this evening. I hope everyone is having a fantastic weekend so far. So, this is a modern witch trial, right? Which is more specific, but this is kind of what they are talking about. Um, let's see here. Um, Now let's go ahead and read just all the way through this. So, first of all, a modern witch hunt would imply that there is no reason in order to cast an accusation. Okay, well, if there is no reason to cast an accusation, then there is absolutely nothing to point to, whether through speculation, through evidence, that could possibly be pointed to as an example of some form of child abuse or some sort of occult involvement in said child abuse. Let's see here. So the problem is, um, it's twofold when it comes to this. So on one half, you have people claiming, um, these cases of child abuse are out of control. There's too many. There's no way it happens this much. Or, I mean, some people have legitimately made the argument that it doesn't exist at all, that it never happens. That is just a patently absurd statement. Now, you also have on the other side, people who make the opposite claim that, anytime a dead chicken is found, all of a sudden it's Satanist. Everywhere there's a Satanist behind every rock. It's like, well, okay, they do exist. They are out there, but they literally are not behind every tree. Not every single case of child abuse is satanic ritual abuse or even just ritual abuse itself. Once again, anyone who's familiar with my work understands that I do not tolerate absolute statements. This is a far too nuanced subject for us to be able to make claims that every case is this or every case is that, and that just will not be tolerated here. Now, let's get into one thing I find incredibly interesting. We're going to kind of just dive straight in to some of this. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm just making sure we have everything that we need. So, anyone who is familiar with the West Memphis 3 case at all understands that there were claims of Satanism. But then the counter argument has always been that there was no involvement of magic or the occult or Satanism or anything along these lines. Well, I was searching news headlines the other day related to this topic. And what should I happen to come across? A really interesting article from the Rolling Stone. It's a CIA rag, in my opinion. It's a total piece of garbage news outlet, in my opinion. Once again, But for those, my blind viewers, um, and those listening on audio, the the headline of this article literally is how Damien Eccles used magic to survive death row. Member of the West Memphis Three writes new book that's part memoir, part spiritual guide. Wow. I thought that had nothing to do with any of this. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure exactly what they expect us to believe here. So the occult or magic, any of these things were not part of the crimes, yet the person that was charged with the crimes twice, and Damien Eccles is a twice convicted child murderer. Period. He is. He always will be. He's a twice convicted child murderer. He somehow happens to get into the occult after. He gets into the occult after he's into prison. That is quite a leap here. Here's one thing that frustrates me about the satanic panic in general. Everyone claims conspiracy on one side or another. Okay. They say that anybody who claims satanic crime at all is a conspiracy theorist. However, to believe that, we are also supposed to believe that there is a rash of police officers just framing people left and right, which is also a conspiracy theory. We're supposed to believe that, there's a coordinated effort from therapists to make up a bunch of, lies, and instill these fake memories into people's minds, which would be a conspiracy. So both sides are claiming conspiracy. However, there's only one side of this argument that actually has the fact to back it up. And that's why we're here doing this. So I just find it interesting. You claim to be somebody who has some sort of or doesn't have any involvement in the occult. However, you get sentenced for a murder that at its core is brought up. Like there's occult elements brought up about a crime that you allegedly didn't commit. You are being framed for. That's what's allegedly happening. You're being framed for a crime. There are occult elements to the crime, but you didn't commit them because you're just a kid that listened to heavy metal. You're just a kid that wore black, right? Once again, that's the official story here. So what exactly is the truth to this? I just find it odd, right? That somebody who isn't involved in the occult, somebody who is not an occultist, gets fingered for a crime, and then also does everything he possibly can to live some form of an occult life. Just so we're aware, give me just a sec here. I'm going to bring this up. I found I found the picture I'd been looking for of Damien Eccles tattoos. Um, he had posted this himself to his Instagram. These are his tattoos. So, I mean, do I really have to say it? Do I have to say this? Now, minus the shitty dragon tattoo, right? Whatever the hell that is. I mean, this is these are occult tattoos through and through. This, in fact, this right here, I can't really highlight it, but this symbol that my mouse is moving around, this is actually a real satanic cross. Most people will point to a upside down Christian cross. Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the Hollywood version of Satanism. Anyone who's actually interested in it will represent this symbol. Like real Satanists will use this symbol. That or the pentagram. The pentagram's a real satanic symbol. However, this big piece right on his shoulder cap, for anyone who doesn't have tattoos, that's right where this huge symbol is, the red and black symbol. This is sigil magic or sigil magic. And as you can tell, this is much older. He's had that for a lot longer. I'm not sure exactly when he got what. However, the picture that he did post, this is a post after having gotten a lot more of these runes. But once again, he's not involved in the occult. Remember that. He's not involved in the occult. So let's read a little bit of this. Just for anyone who's interested, this, like I said, this is from the Rolling Stone. Let's see, is there a date on it? Yeah, November 19th, 2018, 2 p.m. Eastern. It's very specific. Damien Eccles' interest in magic can be traced back to when he was 7 years old. While reading one of his grandmother's tabloids in his family's Mississippi trailer, he saw an ad for a book. Want to learn magic? Send $5.95 to this address, and we'll send you this book, he remembers. This ad didn't focus on the idea of magic, as in entertainers performing illusions like David Blaine or Chris Angel, but rather magick, magic with a K. A path of evolution or transformation stemming from its own set of practices. Eccles thought nothing else would matter if he could practice magic. But growing up in poverty, he couldn't afford the book. But magic would become an integral part of his life, starting apparently when he was 7 years old. Though he is currently an author and visual artist, sure. Eccles, best known for being one of the West Memphis three teenagers who were convicted of murdering 3 young boys as part of satanic ritual in 1993. I mean, literally, that is what they were convicted for. They were later exonerated. That's a lie. No, they weren't. This is a flat out lie. They were released in 2011. Okay. But as far as the state of Kentucky is concerned, which also would mean the United States government is concerned, they are still convicted. That was the whole point to the Alford plea. Even though they are out, they were twice convicted child murderers. So they were not exonerated. They never have been. In his latest book, High Magic, the author details how it helped save his life while behind bars for 17 years for a crime he did commit. The article does say didn't commit. He did commit this crime. The practice, which Eccles focuses on in his book, refers to energetic practices, spiritual growth, ceremonies, and rituals. And rituals. It's what helped save his life while he was stuck in prison and living alone in solitary confinement. The book is a guide to help newcomers apply magic to their everyday experiences, which is why it functions as part memoir, part spiritual guide. There we go. There's his book, A Guide to the Spiritual Practices That Saved My Life on Death Row. High Magic, Damien Eccles. I mean, just take a look at his tattoos. Now, granted, some of them are innocuous. Some of them are shitty tribal tattoos because he's from that generation. But I mean, they're all very occultish, esoteric. Is that a crime in and of itself? No, of course not. If that was the case, I myself would be guilty of something terrible. You can have tattoos, but also I have never been convicted twice of committing murder. So there's the big difference. People's concepts of what these practices come from things like horror movies and centuries of propaganda from fundamentalist religious organizations who didn't even know what it was. Eccles, 42, telling Rolling Stone. I wanted to correct some of that. It wasn't until he was put on death row that he began practicing high magic. Yeah, I'm sure. When I was in prison, I had nothing but time. So that's when I decided every single minute of every single day to learning everything I could from classic sources, he explains. Except for we know that this is a lie. We know for a fact that this is a lie. Just for anyone who is curious, this is a wonderful video from William Ramsey himself. So, all rights to him. This is something that came from his channel. Make sure and go check out his channel.
The question that some people want to say as well.
Now, once again, the point, before we get into this, the point of me bringing this up is to show how much of a fucking liar he is. Okay? He can hardly do anything but lie. That's all I can see from him. So when he says that people's concepts of what these practices come from, things like horror movies and centuries of propaganda from fundamentalist religious organizations who don't even know what it is. In fact, I would argue that's probably who would know what it is. It would be the antithesis of something like Christianity. So therefore they would probably know. Not everybody, but there's going to be some religious people who know exactly what this is. So that's, first of all, a stupid comment to make. On top of this, he is also quoted once again, I wanted to correct some of that. And then the article, the author of the article goes on to say, it wasn't until he was put on death row that he began practicing high magic. That is the most outside of the fact that the article claims that they were exonerated, outside of that comment, which is the largest bold-faced lie ever, they were never exonerated. Outside of that, them claiming that he wasn't practicing high magic until he was on death row is just a bold-faced lie also. But it is the second largest. So that's the point of me bringing up this video, is to show exactly how much of a liar he is.
What was his alibi? What were you doing? Why would police come to you? What was your alibi?
I had an entire day mapped out at that time period. You know, there were many people that had saw me. At the time that the police say the murders took place, I was actually on the phone with 3 different people. The problem was the attorneys I had at the time, the public defenders, never even called them to the witness stand, never even asked them about this kind of stuff.
The claim.
I was on, the time that they say the murders happened, I was on the phone with 3 different people. You know, the attorneys that I had were so incompetent, it boggles the imagination. You know, I asked them, why aren't you going to call these people up on the stand so that they can testify that they were on the phone with me? And they would say, we don't need them. You know, the state's case is so weak and ridiculous as it is, there's no point in even wasting time on this.
So, for the blind viewers, it says, in this clip, Damien Eccles minimizes his voluminous mental health record and turns the conversation towards probation officer Jerry Driver with unsubstantiated allegations of sexual abuse. Now, the clips that we just watched before we move on, those were Damien Eccles once again going through his alibi, which has been disproven time and time again, even during the trial. Because here's one of the number one facts about the case. None of these boys, now men, have an alibi for that day. Period. None of them do. And any alibi that they have given has been disproven multiple times. So, he goes through, there's 2 clips. He's telling 2 different journalists that he was on the phone with 3 different people, except those 3 different people, the reason they weren't called to the stand is because they all said they weren't talking to him. They all independently said that without knowing that that's why they were being asked. So that's the reason they were never asked to appear on the stand. Imagine that. Now, these next sets of clips, Damien Eccles minimizes his voluminous mental health record and turns the conversation towards probation officer Jerry Driver with unsubstantiated allegations of sexual abuse.
And I asked you earlier, you know, how do you keep sane in your cell on death row? But the fact is, before this trial, you spent time in a mental institution.
I did when I was younger for depression, and that was what led the cops initially to start focusing on me, is because there used to be this cop named Jerry Driver who, he was like a juvenile officer, and I had run-ins with him over and over and over again. And part of the reason is because he used to come through our neighborhood and pick up teenage boys and tell them unless they gave him oral sex, he was going to take them to jail, press charges against him.
Driver was convinced that the murders were the work of Damien Eccles, and he told that to the police.
So that's interesting, right? So in this clip, Damien Eccles lies about his knowledge of the area where the murders took place.
Let's go back to 1993. Had you, that area, that Robin Hills area, was that an area that you were familiar with or had ever been in?
No.
To 1993. Had you, that area, that Robin Hills area, was that an area that you were familiar with or had ever been in?
No.
So the video clip says, in fact, so just in case anyone missed it, the reporter asked Damien Eccles if he was familiar with that area. He said, no, I'm not. In fact, Damien Eccles once lived across the street from the scene of the crime at the Mayfair Apartments, seen here to the left, the day the bodies of the children were found. So this apartment complex that's pictured here in the video is the apartment complex in which he lived in before the murders. This apartment complex it butts up right next to Robin Hood Hills. You can literally probably look out the window and see Robin Hood Hills and the car wash, or the truck wash right next to Robin Hood Hills. So we're expected to believe that he knows nothing of Robin Hood Hills? Okay.
That's actually, most people always call us the West Memphis Three, but we actually weren't from West Memphis. We were from a small town right outside of West.
Okay, so now he's actually never even lived in West Memphis. Never even lived there. Okay.
West Memphis called Marion, which almost no one knows where it is. And being that West Memphis is the closest thing to Marion, it's just sort of, people look at it as being almost the same place. And all of the dealings we had were with West Memphis Police Department. So West Memphis wasn't a place that I went to a great deal of time. I went to school in Marion. I lived in Marion. So I didn't really go to West Memphis.
Except for that is such a verifiable lie. That is just But here's the thing is he believes he is so bold in the lies that even if they are verifiable, nobody's going to call him on it. And honestly, not a lot of people have, which is at least the people that get contact with him. I'm calling him out now. These are lies. Damien, they're lies. But I'll never be able to speak to him is the big difference. The only way that, his circle of people would ever allow somebody to speak to him is if there's already like pre-scripted questions, or if he knows that you're on his side and, have some sort of something to give him, whether it's an actual thing or it's, what he views as worthy attention. So that's the big difference. Somebody like me is never going to be able to speak to him. Doesn't mean I wouldn't, because if I ever had the chance, you better fucking believe I would. And I would tell him exactly all of this to his face, that I have no problem with that. I just don't ever see it happening. But that's the thing. Anyone who does get to him would never call him on this.
A lot at all.
So where these murders took place, that was not an area that
No, because that would have been a residential area, a wooded area close to a residential area. There weren't any, if I went to West Memphis, it would have been to do something like, say, go to Walmart, go to the grocery store, something like that. So it wouldn't have been in a residential area anyway.
So residences of the West Memphis Three at the time of the murders and location of the Mayfair Apartments. So this first picture, for anyone who can't see, it's a picture that shows where Eccles' home is, where the bodies were found, where Jason Baldwin lived, and where Jesse Miskelly lived. So Robin Hood Hills is directly halfway between Damien Eccles' house and Jason Baldwin's house. Those two were best friends. So you cannot tell me that two best friends, especially in the 90s, never said, hey, meet me halfway to your house. I did that shit all the time with my friends back then. So you can't tell me that never happened. That would be a common meeting place. And I'm sure they hung out there plenty of times. Now, once again, This is how close the Mayfair apartments, the apartments that Damien Echols lived in before the murders, how close they were to the crime scene. Okay? I mean, just look how close. You could literally throw a rock from the apartments and hit Robin Hood Hills, or vice versa. I mean, the apartments are so close that when the bodies were found, that they wrapped police tape around one of the trees next to the Mayfair apartments. So that's how close
The police, the prosecutor, the judge, the jury, all of them got it wrong?
In our opinion, yes. In our opinion, yes.
I grew up in an apartment complex. By the way, this is art of the personal story. Commenter saying, I grew up in an apartment complex with a creek just like that. There is no way nobody knows what's going on over there. Just makes who did not hear screaming, who did not hear the little boys yelling for help. I feel like somebody in the neighborhood had to. Well, and here's the thing. I would say, even just for sake of argument, it's possible. I mean, the entire place is surrounded by interstates. So it is possible that nobody heard them. Also, with the tree coverage, the water running, because there was a substantial amount of water at the time, okay, it is possible. I definitely agree with your sentiment, though. It's kind of hard to believe that, especially on a spring day like that, like there was nobody else out there. Okay, let's see here. So, I mean, it's absurd. It is absurd, even if somebody heard or not. Damien knew of this place, and he just told, some journalists, and he's told many journalists that he had no idea about this. So, it's just ridiculous. So, let's see. In this clip, Damien Echols conveniently omits all of Jesse Miskelly's post-conviction confessions and focuses upon inconsistencies in the original June 3rd confession, many of which were clarified that same day.
Defense attorneys claim.
Also, for anyone who is curious, I just made an appearance on the No Way Jose show, and we actually went through all 8 of Jesse Miskelly's on-record confessions, and that currently is behind a paywall, but will be released to the public, I imagine, here in the next couple of weeks sometime. So if you want, go sign up for No Way Jose's Patreon. You can go check it out behind the paywall right now. Otherwise, just wait a little bit, and it will be released to the public. But and at some point, we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm just waiting to finish up the documents that I'm making. They're almost there. There's some clerical errors that I have to make, or clerical errors that I have to fix is what I meant. Anyways, so as soon as the documents are pristine, I'll be doing a show on the documents themselves, and the documents will then also be released to the public for free. They will be references, so there'll be something for all of you to be able to download and take and use. So anyways, on that note, let's get to this clip.
The confessions were coerced.
He couldn't even get a single detail of the crime right. They would ask him things like, well, what time did this happen? He says 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, they knew that was a lie. They knew it wasn't true because the kids were in school at 8 o'clock in the morning. They didn't care.
Both buyers, Michael Moore and Stevie Branch, were found naked and hogtied in a West Memphis ditch. Prosecutors say the murders were part of a satanic ritual.
You had nothing to.
So I want to address this real quick. Do you think the father of one of the victims was involved? Not at all. Nope. Not at all. And in fact, the crime statistics that we have actually show that he wasn't. What I mean by that is when children are harmed by a stepfather, let's see. Let me do this. So when a child is harmed by a step parent, actually, it is almost exclusively, I mean, it's like 98% of the time, if they were harmed by their step parent, it happens in the home. It doesn't happen outside. So that is what it is. Now, with that, I think there is a caveat. Do I think that there are other people involved besides those three? Yes. I think that there are more people involved. And I think that there are people that were questioned that were involved. I do largely believe that there is some occult group or occult something. There's something larger going on. I mean, you got to also realize West Memphis is not that far away from the Mena, Arkansas airport, where at the time there was tons of criminal activity being ran through the Mena, Arkansas airport. This is also not that far away from places like Boys Town, from places like Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, there's some major issues. And also, you just got to look at Arkansas itself. There is, first of all, a lot of crime, but there's also a lot of occult activity taking place in this state. They have a really high per capita population of occultists and Satanists. So I do believe that there are other people involved. I do not believe that any of those people were the family members of the little boys.
With any of the.
Absolutely nothing. Back when I first came into the prison, the guards, I guess they decided they were going to throw me a welcome to the neighborhood party. So they put a knife in my cell and carried me back to the part of the prison they called a hole, where for the next 3 weeks they beat me, they starved me, and they tortured me in just about every way you can torture a human being. They beat me so bad I pissed blood. One of the things they did is they messed up my teeth. They caused a lot of damage in my teeth. Well, in prison there are no root canals, there are no crowns, there are no caps. I was in more pain than most people can imagine. Imagine the absolute worst toothache you've ever had in your life, and then imagine it multiplied by 10, and then imagining it lasting for years. Well, there was nothing I could do. You know, they told me, deal with the pain as long as you can, and then when you can't take it anymore, we'll pull your teeth out. I didn't want to live with no teeth. I didn't want to have to come and face my family with no teeth because I was beaten by a bunch of prison guards. So I had to learn things like Reiki, Qigong, therapeutic touch, you know, different types of meditation that allows you to deal with pain and physical illness and ailments. And
this was in what facility, your original facility?
That was in the one over there, yeah.
You have teeth now.
Exactly. It's allowed me to, these practices has allowed me to deal with the pain and keep it at bay enough to hold out.
I mean, let's just think about what he just said. So he was beaten so bad by the police, right, that, you know, he had teeth damage. But yet the journalist even brought up, hey, you still have teeth now. And he says, yeah, I know. Like, what? Let's just play that again.
These practices has allowed me to deal with the pain and keep it at bay enough to hold out.
Oh, he actually, it looks like William actually cut off the end of that. But I mean, the journalist calls him out on it and says, but you still have teeth. And he's like, yeah, I know. Like, what the fuck? Oh, it's just the wildest thing. The fact that he just lies like this. So in these clips with two different interviewers, one can ascertain that Damien Eccles has memorized scripts in response to standard questions. He incorporates preset facial gestures into his responses.
So, after these boys died, how did you get pinpointed as one of the killers?
Back then, you know, things have changed a lot in the almost 20 years that I've been locked up. You know, now I'll see things on television. You'll have housewives that get tattoos and nose rings and things like that. And it wasn't like that back in 1993 in small town Arkansas.
Back then when this happened, what do you think it was that made the community, the state even, surrounding states, so certain that you guys were the ones that were involved in this?
This was 1993. Things were a lot different back then, even than they are now. You know, now you have housewives who have tattoos. And it wasn't really like that back then, at least not.
The fuck it wasn't. Granted, it's not how it is now. I'll give him that. But housewives had tattoos back then. You know? Like, what is he saying? That it's absurd. It is absurd. Uncle Ted, good to see you. And yeah, I'm with you. I am so tired of all the lies. The lies just become overwhelming. They genuinely do. So once again, make sure and go pick yourself up a copy of Abomination. You can do that by going to William Ramsey's website, WilliamRamseyInvestigates.com. It's just like, if this case matters to you at all, or even the overall topic, this is almost like a must to have in your library, just because I can't think of anything else that would be as important. So, let's see here. We're going to switch over to this. Oop, remove that. Move this to stage. Okay, so this is a YouTube video. Let's see. I'm not sure who it's from. Let's see real quick. Sounds True. I don't know. I've never heard of this. Never heard of this channel. I've actually never watched this video, but it's How Magic Saved My Life While I Was in Prison. And that's, once again, Magic with a CK. So it says, discovering the power of magic, CK, with Damien Eccles.
I probably discovered magic for the first time when I was about 7 years old. You know, when I couldn't even fully understand what it was, what it meant. But I knew from the moment I come in contact with it, it was something that spoke to me very loudly. It was if the universe said to me, this is your purpose. This is what you're meant to be focusing on. This is what you're meant to be doing. When I look back over my own life, I can see how every single thing that I experienced, every single place I've ever been, every single person I came in contact with, all of those things formed individual links in a chain that brought me to where I am right now. When I think about things like the fact that one day as a child...
Yeah, that's what I was saying, Uncle Ted, right before you showed up, is, you know, think about this area at the time, West Memphis. And, I Shout out to Rage Child. He was bringing up just this week about, right across the river into Memphis is a rather large and well-known satanic rap underground over there. So it's like, if you know anything about like 3-6 Mafia or any of the rappers that came out of that area, and we're talking all the way through the late 80s, early 90s into the early 2000s, the double aughts, like some of the music, the underground music coming out of there is satanic. People will, once again, they will turn around and say, oh, no, it isn't. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, 3-6, 3-6 Mafia. Come on, get the fuck out of here. Like, it's not satanic. Hold on. If you say it's satanic, you're panicking. Watch out, everyone. You're panicking. Get out of here. It's laughable. It's a joke. If you bring up Satanism, all of a sudden you're panicking. You're hysterical. You're in hysterics. Get the fuck out of here with that. Like, so the CK, it doesn't, as far as I understand, it doesn't have any special meaning. It's just, and like I said, I could be wrong, but it's just to differentiate between, like an illusionist and an actual magical practitioner. Yeah, no kidding. His stupid glasses, he says, because while he was in solitary confinement, the darkness ruined his eyesight. Now, I don't know if anyone's ever been to jail. Granted, sometimes solitary confinement, they will lock you away from light. Okay. They don't do that for a period of 10 years. So, was he without light? I'm sure at least, he was in prison for 17 years. At some point, I'm sure he was locked away in some solitary without confinement. However, he was just regularly on death row. Death row is no different than anywhere else. They have windows. They do take you outside. Granted, it's not a lot. You see daylight, right? Like, they don't literally lock you in a hole for 10 years. That's just not how things are done. Let's see. For sure, Ramsey, no doubt, reminded. Yep, 100%. Ramsey is great. I will be getting him back on the show. Obviously, it's going to be after Christmas. But we are going to do our West Memphis 3 interview round 2. So be on the lookout for that. I am definitely ready. Definitely ready to put the West Memphis to bed, at least for a little while. Yeah, Zach King. So I actually have his email, and I have reached out. So we'll see. I would like to talk to that guy. That would be very interesting. It's drug dealing cliques that use religion as mind control for bad shit. Nah, I think it's yes, you're not wrong. Before I lob my criticism, yes, you are right. But it's also, Satanists that use drug dealing as a way to get to people. So it's like both at the same time. Anyways, let's get back to this video real quick.
I walked into the public library and they were having a book sale to get rid of their old books. A used book on magic was 10 cents. I bought this book, took it home. When I was arrested, that book was one of the first things the prosecutor presented against me at my trial. That book was one of the things that sent me to prison. But while I was in prison, magic was the thing that...
No. That book is not what sent you to prison. What a lying sack of shit. Oh. As far as I know, David McGowan's daughter, Rebecca or Rachel. Okay, I can't remember her name. She does run his website. She keeps it up. Although I've heard through the grapevine, this is, whatever it is, she's had like some family stuff going on. So she's not, I mean, she's still keeping up with the website. But, if anyone like reaches out through email or whatever, because there is contact information on his website, if you reach out, there's going to be some time in between you reaching out and getting a response. But yes, she does keep it up. And if, the rumors are true that there's, some family stuff going on, we all send our well wishes and prayers that everything is good. So, yes, Patrick is doing an amazing job. And I'm actually in contact with Patrick as well. I've been working with him on some Ted Bundy stuff. So, be on the lookout for that stuff too. But yeah, what a piece of shit. Just lying like this,
Kept me alive and preserved me long enough to get out. I think
that book is not what sent you to fucking prison, dude. The fact that you murdered 3 boys is what sent you to prison.
In the beginning, when we start to practice magic, we always have doubts in the back of our minds. We always wonder, is this actually working? Or would this have happened anyway if I wouldn't have done this technique? That's completely normal. Keep in mind that I was on death row for almost 20 years doing magic to get myself out of prison. And there were times when I was plagued with those same doubts. I would think, you have never, ever seen anyone walk off of death row alive. So what makes you think that that's going to happen for you? I was plagued with those same doubts, and it still worked. I'm alive today. I'm out of prison, and I am completing a project that for me is like the culmination of my childhood dream. We are going to experience hardship at some point in our lives, but magic provides us with...
Yes, it is the YouTube channel Patrick. He also has a website. There's a forum that you can be a part of. There's a Discord that's starting to pop off right now. So I recommend everyone get in that Discord. So yeah, it's that's who it is.
Grace, patience, intelligence, and the ability to face those hardships without crumbling into them. Those are the things it did for me while I spent 20 years on death row, and I'm hoping that it does the same thing for someone else.
Okay, so I mean, he is intentionally yeah, there you go. Amanda does sound correct. I once again could be wrong, don't quote me, but Amanda does sound like his daughter's name. So with this book, he is intentionally trying to get people into magic. He's trying to, tell them, here's my experiences. And also it is, the way that this was talked about is, part spiritual guide, part how to. He's hoping that people will read this book and bring magic into their own life. Like, what the fuck? But once again, he's innocent, right? He's just a kid that listened to heavy metal. He just listened to heavy metal, wore black t-shirts, right? That's it. There's no other anything. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Hold on. Give me just 1 sec. I've got to get something pulled up here. Something I forgot to do. Let's see. No, not that one. Really? Oh, wait. No, okay. So they've got to be there. There we go. Sorry, I'm just getting something uploaded. There we go. Boom. Uploaded. Okay. We'll just put that down. Okay. So I thought that was kind of an interesting clip. Let's see. We can exit out of that. We can exit out of this. Now we're going to kind of change gears just a little bit. We're going to move on from West Memphis and Abomination and stuff. We might come back to it in this episode, but we're going to move on to some McMartin stuff. So let's see. Give me just a minute here. Okay. Oh, let's see. Hide that. Sorry, some things we can have up, other things we can't always have up. So, but also, I was thinking about this the other day. One of the topics I wanted to cover today, but is going to be put off for another day, is AI's influence on our life. It is definitely a level of mind control. Let's see. I'm going to switch to this real quick. So, there's definitely a certain level of mind control that's coming through AI. Like it just is. AI is now being programmed with neuro-linguistic programming, which is a form of hypnosis, which no surprise there. But I don't mind having to tell you guys to hold on a second while I pull something up. AI is not going to do that. So that's one way you can tell that I'm actually not an AI bot. Things go wrong. I misspeak occasionally. Don't know how to pronounce certain words. These are certain things that can tip people off that I'm a real boy. I'm not some AI generated model. Because whether you guys know it or not, the AI influencer stuff is out of control already. It is, oh man, it is wild when you start paying attention to it. Not that you guys aren't, but when you start intentionally trying to find the AI influencers and stuff, holy hell, they are everywhere. And some of them are indistinguishable from real people. How would you ever know? So for one, that's one reason why I don't mind, asking you guys to hold on a second while I pull something up. But also I decided that I am going to keep doing things like that. Because I do want the people to watch, or the people that watch, whether live or later on, I want people to be able to understand that I am a real person. I don't ever want there to be questions about whether I am or am not real. So just kind of a side tangent there. Let's see here. We are going to actually work our way through a little bit of this, and then I'm going to bring up the McMartin stuff. So a little bit more West Memphis 3 stuff real quick, and then we will get to the McMartin.
In 1993, an Arkansas town in the heart of the Bible Belt was stunned when 3 8-year-old boys were murdered.
He didn't just kill my son and his 2 friends, they wrecked 3 families.
So just so you guys know, in case you don't, oh my God, that would be amazing, Uncle Ted. For anyone that can't see, I'm going to make a Dave McGowan model that only answers in his algorithm. I would love to see that. One thing, before I forget, I'm actually working on a timeline and a map and a collusion map. And it's going to map all the different things in Program to Kill. So basically, I've taken Program to Kill, I've plugged it into an AI, and I've started mapping all sorts of connections, dates, interactions with all sorts of people. So there's going to be some really, really fun stuff coming if you enjoy Program to Kill.
Stuff they did to my son, I want to do it to them too.
Were 3 local teenagers wrongfully convicted of the crime.
Sooner or later he's gonna walk because he didn't do anything. He's a good kid.
After nearly 20 years, new DNA evidence, new witnesses, and an explosion of celebrity support bring the case that rocked the nation.
Yeah, the celebrity support actually makes me think that they did it more. It, like, maybe back then, obviously it helped. Today, I don't think it fucking helps. I don't think it helps at all.
Back to court. Join best-selling crime writer Aphrodite Jones as she takes a new look at the tragedy of the West Memphis Three.
Yeah, 100%. It's Eddie Vedder and Henry Rollins basically blowing him.
May 5th, 1993. West Memphis, Arkansas. 3 8-year-old boys went out to play. They never came back.
I think they were going to their hideout, the little play spot where they went.
Their play spot was called Robin Hood Hills, a wooded area near Interstate 40. And the boys were seen riding their bikes in that direction. But by sundown, they hadn't returned.
And these are kids that are scared of the dark. They believe in the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus, you know.
Families began searching for their boys.
We went out to the wooded area and made a walkthrough. And I'm going in there thinking, God, no, son, you're not in here because the woods and the trees, it just, you know, it's like a jungle out there.
By nightfall, there was still no sign of the boys. The next morning, West Memphis police began a formal search of the Robin Hood Hills area. That afternoon, an officer spotted a single black sneaker floating in the creek. Its laces were missing. And just beneath the surface, the bound, broken body of a little boy. And then there were 3.
I ran up to the crime scene and I hit the ground kicking and screaming.
Then Gary Gitchell came up, told me they'd found our son, and he's dead.
The horrible news swept through the town like wildfire.
Their bodies were found submerged in 2 feet of water, their hands and feet bound, their skulls crushed. But West Memphis police won't comment on a motive.
All at once, West Memphis was awash in grief, shock, and outrage.
I like to say public execution myself.
After a month-long investigation, police arrested 3 teenagers, charged them with capital murder, and a relieved chief.
So I find this interesting, Kay, because it's like the people who claim innocence also have turned around and said, like, oh, well, they just targeted these boys. And that's not even close to true. First of all, it took a month to investigate the rest of this. During that time, they had an entire, like, they had the police, meaning they had a large team investigating and interviewing almost everybody, collecting evidence. Now, granted, that does not mean that the police did not screw up at all or did things that they should have done. You know, there should have been better collection of DNA evidence, but this was 1993. DNA evidence isn't a huge thing. Also, DNA evidence is not a massive deciding factor in most cases. DNA evidence only determines the outcome of about 20% of 20 to 30% of all criminal cases. So it's not like even if there was more DNA evidence, there's no guarantee one way or another the outcome of the case itself. So granted, the police definitely screwed up. However, even with those screw ups of the police, they were still able to rightfully convict those three boys at the time. Well, I mean, Damien was a man. Jason might as well have been a man. He was on his way to 18. But nonetheless, they even moved. They even moved venues. They went to a town in the next county, a county that was largely college-age people. Okay, and that was actually a large portion of the jury was actually college-age people. And I think that the defense actually did that on purpose, thinking that if they got a younger jury, that a younger jury would be less likely to be influenced by claims of Satanism or whatever it may be. That didn't work. Now, granted, the prosecution didn't use the claims of Satanism, which was probably a good idea. They went with just the cold hard facts. And we'll actually get into the case next West Memphis episode that we do. But let's switch over real quick to something I wanted to read. So, Ray Bucky's press corps and the tunnels of McMartin. This is what we're going to tackle. Let's see here. Okay. So for anyone who doesn't know, Ray Bucky was like the main guy that was being looked at and investigated and was charged with the crimes of McMartin. Ray Bucky was like the number one guy, and it was the rest of his family. So this says let's see. So basically, press reports, op-eds, columns, television documentaries, just everything has dismissed McMartin, the McMartin case, as a witch hunt. Once again, just like everything else, a witch hunt born of mass hysteria, coercive therapy, false memories, and greed, because that's what this is. Yet, all 7 jurors attending a press conference after the second trial raised their hands when asked who among them believed children had been abused at the preschool. So why the call to public denial from the press? Now, the reason why we're jumping over to McMartin, or just this in general, is kind of a look at the propaganda itself. So that's kind of why we're going here. Let's see. So after the initial flurry of press coverage of the McMartin preschool molestation case, a number of sympathetic reporters and psychiatrists publicly exonerated Ray Bucky and his co-defendants. The Observer's gallery of skeptics, quote unquote, also denied that ritual abuse is a social problem. So just so we're clear what ritual abuse is. Okay, by the legal definition of a ritual in the context of this could be literally anything from your morning routine, your day-to-day life. For instance, say if you have a schedule where you get up at the same time every day, you eat breakfast at the same time every day, then you do your dishes, read the newspaper, leave for work, right? And that all happens same time every single day. That is a ritual. That is ritualistic in nature. So, ritual abuse in the context, ritual abuse doesn't mean esoteric, occult, satanic. Ritual abuse, it can mean those things. It can mean those things. But what it means is abuse that happens in the exact same way. So it is a ritual. It is performed in the same manner over and over and over again. There is a pattern that is followed every time the abuse happens. So this is what ritual abuse is. So many skeptics also deny that ritual abuse is a social problem. The argument consistently leads to the lament that the McMartin allegations were incited by mass hysteria, an ambitious district attorney, an incompetent child therapist. The hysteria thesis, promoted by a small group of pedophile defense psychologists, mostly, has appeared in publications of stature, including Los Angeles Times, San Francisco Chronicle, Wall Street Journal, Village Voice, Harper's, New Yorker, and Newsweek. The McMartin case was the subject of an Oliver Stone cable feature. Media boosters of the defense neglect to acknowledge the most damning evidence in the McMartin case. Instead, they explain away superficial, carefully sifted pieces of the case. In preparation for the trial, 389 toddlers were interviewed. Nearly all of them described abuse at the preschool, and still do to this day. And most of them, even now, to this day in 2025, have not recanted anything that they said. In fact, I am unaware of any of them that have. I'm not saying that none of them have, but a vast majority of them, now adults, still stand by their statements that they made back then. And also, we're talking 389 toddlers, okay? That's outrageous. So, this is what I was talking about earlier, is regardless of whatever side you're on, well, if you're on the side of innocence, that this is just a mass hysteria, you're a conspiracy theorist. And you're telling me that this isn't a conspiracy that allegedly Ray Bucky, okay, was picked on. They were literally just picked on by a group. Let's see. This was a mass hysteria, literally set in motion by an ambitious district attorney and an incompetent child therapist. Kind of sounds like a conspiracy theory to me. But yet they want to point the finger. Ooh, conspiracy, conspiracy, conspiracy. Yes, it is a conspiracy. You're right. It is. But it's not much of a theory. Anyways, nearly all of them, so nearly all 389 toddlers, described abuse at the preschool and do to this day. Some 80% had physical symptoms, including blunt force trauma of sexual areas, scarring, rectal bleeding, and sexual diseases. Interestingly enough, skeptics of ritual abuse in the public print often have dubious bona fides themselves. Some even participate secretly in the pedophile and occult undergrounds, most notably a couple of Los Angeles writers who have written the only 2-book available on McMartin, taking mental health professionals, police, the press, and prosecutors to task for pursuing false allegations of abuse. In fact, that reminds me of something. Let's see. Let's see here. Give me just a sec. Yep. Here we go. Give me just a sec to pull this up. This is okay. So it was just talking about how some of these writers, some of the people in the media itself also partake in these ritual abuse crimes. It's kind of interesting, right? That's kind of a wild statement to make. How can we be so sure? Well, give me just a sec. Let's see, let me pull this up. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. So anyone and all of the blind viewers, former ABC investigative journalist pleads guilty to child pornography charges. James Gordon Meek, 53, who joined ABC News Washington Bureau in 2013, admitted in U.S. District Court that he illegally possessed and transported child pornography. Now, why does this man matter? Why does he matter? Well, let's see if they mention it here in the article. Whoa, chill out. Let's see. An FBI affidavit indicates that agents found dozens of child pornography images and videos when they searched Meek's home last year, going back to at least 2014. Okay. Let's see here. Anyways, it doesn't seem like they're going to mention why he is important. Not super surprised. Anyways, this man, Meek, okay? What's his full name? James Gordon Meek. God, 2013, and he wasn't busted until 2023, so 10 years. That's insane. Why did that happen? Okay. Anyways, James Gordon Meek, okay? The reason why he is significant is because he was one of the largest, most outspoken voices when it came to past offense. This was like the guy. This was the guy who wrote all the op-eds, wrote everything about past offense. You know, just debunking it. Let's see. For those that maybe don't quite get what I'm saying, I think everyone does, but just in case you don't, this whole thing, he's the one that wrote the debunking articles on it. This man that was arrested for CP in 2013, he was busted in 2013. James Gordon Meek wrote all the articles about this. This is why he's important. So, just had to make this very apparent. Give me just one sec. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So, interestingly enough, skeptics of ritual abuse in the public print often have dubious bona fides themselves. Some even participate secretly in the pedophile and occult undergrounds, most notably a couple of Los Angeles writers who have written the only 2 book available on McMartin. That was back then. This is kind of an old book. Taking mental health professionals, police, the press, and prosecutors to task for pursuing false allegations of abuse. The Politics of Child Abuse by Paul and Shirley Eberly purports to be something of a definitive investigation. A blurb for the book exults, quote, "This has got to be one of the most devastating political detective stories of all time. The authors smashed open the child abuse witch hunt so everyone can see it for what it is, the way it really happened and why. Here is the amazing story, starting with the first spectacular accusations, the marathon pre-trial hearing, the endless series of false accusations." That's a quote. Since the Eberleys' first McMartin book appeared in 1986, they have achieved national status as child abuse experts. In courts of law, their work is frequently cited, and they lecture widely to receptive audiences. The Eberleys once appeared as featured speakers at a conference held by victims of child abuse laws, Vocal, an organization that feted the Politics of Child Abuse, the book, as positively revelatory. But Paul and Shirley Eberly can hardly be considered credible reporters. Blurbs in their own pornographic tabloid, the LA Star, failed to mention that in the 1970s, the authors once ran an underground tabloid for pedophiles in Los Angeles. It was called Finger, which delved heavily into sadomasochistic sex with children, and sex acts involving human excrement. Finger contained sexual drawings by children and pedophile erotica, including, I'm not even going to read those. Not even going to read those. Sorry. Just, there's something I just know that YouTube is going to flag me for something when it comes to this. Oh, look at this wonderful little title right here. Okay? This is what came out of this magazine called Finger, okay? And this is Paul and Shirley Eberly, okay? The people that wrote the book being cited in court, this is them, the Eberleys. What the hell? Like, holy hell. I really? Wow. Okay. Okay, let's see. Where was I? I don't want to. Let's see. One issue featured a cover photo of 2 naked adults reclining amid a pile of inflated dolls. Wow, if that's not on the nose. A letter to Finger disclaimed. Let's see. Let me read through that. Let's see. I'm not going to read that. I don't want to push YouTube too hard tonight, but there you go. I highlighted it. So if you guys would like to read it, there it is. The book's publisher, Carol Stewart and Lyle Stewart and Company, told Miss Magazine. Okay, Miss Magazine, for anyone that doesn't know, is like a huge feminist publication. So find that interesting. So the publishers of this book that let's see, that Paul and Shirley Eberly. So The Politics of Child Abuse, okay, is the book that we're talking about. So the publisher of that book, Carol Stewart of Lyle Stewart and Company, told Miss Magazine that the Eberlys, quote, have been friends of the family for years. Wonderful. In The Politics of Child Abuse, the Eberlys claimed that since the McMartin arrests, quote, we have been barraged with hundreds of sexual abuse cases in which many people have been sent to prison for staggeringly long terms on little or no evidence. That's just a lie. That is just a lie. That the Eberlys themselves remain at large would seem to contradict the notion that child abuse laws are stringently over-enforced. No kidding. The Eberlys attempt to portray every abuser as a victim of the justice system. Let's see. I want to pull these two up real quick. Paul and Shirley Eberly. Just going to pull these two up real quick. Give me just a sec. Give me just a sec. Give me just a sec. Let's see. Okay. Paul and Shirley Eberly. Are there any pictures of them? It doesn't look like there's any pictures of them. Huh. Well, here's... Wow, that's a tiny, tiny picture. I don't want to show that. Oh. Interesting. Okay, so I didn't find any pictures of them. What I did find was a website that hosts digital copies of this magazine. Finger. Wow. And that's just like right on just like the normal web. I don't recommend anyone go out there just search for this search for this magazine that they did. Do not, especially if the contents of it is as bad as this book states, which kind of looks that way. I haven't dug into any of that, but let's just pull up their Wikipedia real quick. I think that's kind of important. So get rid of that. Sorry, just trying to keep things clean and my computer working. Wow, that's I'm kind of blown away. Wait a sec. No shit. No way. Oh my Lord. You guys will never guess what I just found. This is wild. You'll never guess who Paul Eberly was hanging out with in Los Angeles in 1969. Hold on. Give me a sec. I'm pulling it up. Wow. So, Paul Eberly interviewed Frank Zappa in Los Angeles in 1969. Once again, this is just an interview. I just find it strange. I just find this incredibly strange. And granted, the Eberlys, like the book said, was working for the LA Star. So this is LA Star number 119 from 1969, the Los Angeles Free Press, which anyone who has followed my Laurel Canyon stuff knows for a fact, or I guess you don't know for a fact, but we have talked about the Los Angeles Free Press a little bit, and we've definitely talked about Frank Zappa. The Los Angeles Free Press kind of just popped up out of nowhere and had some amazing funding, right? So the speculation is kind of like, maybe it's a CIA rag or FBI rag, one of the two. But it was like the underground magazine, right? And it appears as though that Paul Eberly was writing for them. Interesting. Yeah. Los Angeles Free Press, August 8th through 14th, 1969. So we're not going to read that, but I just kind of find that interesting since we were talking about him. Okay. So what a trip. Okay. So this is what their Wikipedia page looks like. It's surprisingly sparse. It is surprisingly sparse. Yes, they were rapping. Oh, groovy, man. So Paul R. Eberly and Shirley Eberly are American authors. Paul Eberly is a former writer for the Los Angeles Free Press. Look at that. Imagine that. Wow. In the 1970s, the Eberlys published a pornographic publication called Finger. Well, there you go. There it is. In 1972, they wrote The Adventures of Mrs. Pussycat, a children's book illustrated by Anthony DeRosa. Why does that name sound familiar? Anybody in the chat? Anybody in the chat know why that name sounds familiar? Let's see. The Adventures of Mrs. Pussycat. Considering the first two, what we just read about Finger, right? And then their second publication in 72 is a children's book. Not a good look. Not a good look. In the 1970s, they published the pornographic underground paper LA Star, sold in news racks throughout Los Angeles and other cities and states. So they're literally publishing pornography and a child's book. And then just for some reason, no reason at all, they publish The Politics of Child Abuse in 1986. It discusses false allegations of child sexual abuse in the daycare sex abuse hysteria. In 1993, they published The Abuse of Innocence on the McMartin preschool trial. That's interesting. In 2006, Paul Eberly published a book on road rage called Terror on the Highway. Wow, that comes kind of out of left field. But yeah, they're just a couple of people publishing some porn back in the 70s. They published a children's book for no reason. And then all of a sudden they want to take on the quote-unquote false allegations of child sexual abuse in what's known as the daycare sex abuse hysteria. Wow. Yeah, these guys glow. These guys glow hard. FBI, CIA, both maybe, possibly connections to foreign intelligence. I mean, connections to Tavistock, probably. That's just wild, though. Like, these are their publications. Now, all of them are extremely sketchy, excluding the road rage one. I'm sure there has to be some sort of sketchy thing connected to that as well. But for today's discussion, like, what the hell, man? So these are the people we're talking about, though. This is why it's important to notice, or to note. This is who Paul Eberly is, or this is who the Eberlys are. Okay. Now, their book, The Politics of Child Abuse, is apparently the go-to source for information regarding how, this is just a mass hysteria, right? These are the experts that people are going to, okay? I think it's important to note, when somebody makes a claim, where is the information coming from? Let's look at who's making the claim. What's their life like? It's like communism. If you're going to be a communist, you gotta look at Karl Marx. Who was he as a person? Did he live the things that he preached? Was he actually smart? Was his uncle a factory owner? Could he have actually learned about capital? Did his mom have a quote saying that, she wishes that Carl would earn capital, not just write about it? Anyways, before I get on that soapbox, the point is when information is expelled like this, you've got to look at the source of where it's coming from. And I don't trust anything about this. I don't trust the Eberlys at all. So, the Eberlys attempt to portray every abuser as a victim of the justice system. Also, that's a terrible, terrible stance to take. So, this is a quote from them. This is a quote from the Eberlys. We believe that every molestation case in which there has been a conviction should be reopened and reviewed. There is convincing evidence that innocent people have been imprisoned, and naive juries and judges were unable to believe the defendants would be brought to trial if no crime had occurred, and defense attorneys have not been allowed to bring all pertinent facts before the public. Okay. Los Angeles attorney Sally Ditcher, in a book review, argued that the Eberlys have nothing to offer to any discipline. The book she laminated is an attempt to vindicate every individual that has been convicted of child abuse. Considering their credentials as child pornographers, of course, the Eberlys, as Ditcher discovered, believe, quote, every molestation case in which there has been a conviction should be reopened and reviewed. Yeah, well, if you are a, child predator, of course you would believe something like that. Of course you would. But these are the same people who are making the claim that this is just a hysteria. Some pedophiles are the ones making the claim that this is hysteria, that it's not actually happening. Now, why would they say that? Do they have some sort of, vested interest in not getting busted? I don't know. Seems crazy to me. I guess, watch out, everybody. I'm panicking. I'm in a panic. Get the fuck out of here with this. And people still say that the satanic panic is a panic, that it's a moral hysteria. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, I don't believe in violence, unjustified violence, but I just want to slap the fuck out of some people. Don't you? Like, I really do. I'm not going to, but I want to. I want to. And I don't recommend it. I don't promote it. But, ooh, man. Man, Jesus is testing me. Oh, it's just absurd. Like, I have to laugh about this because it's so fucking stupid. The authors of Skepticism of Ritual Abuse is shared by Gerald Laurie, Professor Emeritus of Biblical History and Archaeology at the University of Southern California. Laurie is one of the principals behind the Noah Ark hoax, which culminated in February 1993 with a 2-hour CBS primetime special, The Incredible Discovery of Noah's Ark, billed by CBS as a documentary. Scholars immediately denounced it. The network refused to retract. Interesting. The authors of Skepticism of Ritual Child Abuse. Okay. I see why they brought that up. Interesting. Satanism in America, a book that Laurie co-wrote, attributed the McMartin case to a satanic panic. Watch out, everyone. We're panicking. We're panicking. Incited by wild-eyed, quote, religious fanatics, opportunists, and emotionally unstable survivors whose stories simply are not to be believed. Well, first of all, okay. Oh, my Lord. Okay, so if they are survivors at all, what did they survive? Okay, I'm just going to move on past that because I'm going to get stuck there, I'm sure. An agonizing irony given Laurie's instigation of the Noah's Ark hoax. He argues that the child abuse hysteria sweeping the country is being fueled by people for whom facts have no meaning. They invent facts. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. And here's the thing. I mean, I disagree that this was a mass hysteria. I disagree that people were just in hysterics. They were panicking, right? I disagree with all of that. But if there is anything on God's green earth that we should fucking panic about, it's child abuse. If there are 386 children coming out of one preschool and all 386 of them are claiming that they were sexually abused, we should fucking panic. We should drop the fucking hammer on that because, I mean, if that's not a reason to panic and freak out a little bit within reason, I don't know what is. So, this brings up a really good point. The people that are being used in court, the people writing the books, exposing this as a hysteria, are all tied to either a hoax or like some of these other people. Paul and Shirley Eberly are actually pornographers. And from what this says, child abusers. And these are the people whose book is being cited in court as facts that this is satanic panic. Okay, Langley connections and the rise of the child abuse backlash. Let's see. Let me wet my whistle real quick. Okay, I am going to hit a couple of comments. I've been seeing the chat go crazy for a little bit. Let me check in with you fine folks. Let's see. Frank Zappa's father, basic chemical research, highly probable, MK Ultra stuff, considering small circle of friends his son had. And yeah, I actually agree with that. I think that's probably likely where Frank Zappa got his cancer from. was playing with the toys covered in, or the lab equipment covered in mercury that his dad would bring home. Yeah, he was very much like his dad. And what's crazy, he was a right-wing authoritarian and hated hippies. Just wild. Not exactly sure what you're meaning there, but I'm just going to agree with it. Yes, yes. Here's the thing, people. Yeah, all of these series, I will cover everything in the series at one point. So, I mean, if you see at the very end of the title, it's episode 007. I did 3 digits because we're going to get into hundreds of episodes. We're going to be into hundreds and hundreds of episodes just on this series alone. Just like in 1975, Hugh Hefner put pictures of a naked 10-year-old Brooke Shields in Playboy. Yeah. What the hell is that? And what's crazy, Brooke Shields even thinks that to this day that was a good idea, that there was nothing wrong with it. But what's crazy is Brooke Shields' mom even tried to buy back the rights to the picture, and the judge in New York said no. And yeah, she was fully nude in Playboy. Still can find issues. Still can find issues. They're not that hard to find. There was millions of them printed. So wild. So wild. Zappa's father was involved in the army, and he worked for the Chemical Corps of Engineers. And he worked at Edgewood Arsenal in Maryland. And that's where Zappa grew up, was in Edgewood, was on the base. Interesting question. Does anyone remember the term satanic panic being used in the time? Because I don't. So I've heard this from multiple people, that the term satanic panic did come later. Now, I've actually seen some media outlets using the term satanic panic from that time period, but it was not common. It wasn't common. It was largely dismissed as like a moral panic, a witch hunt. Witch hunt was mainly used, but satanic panic kind of came later, from what I understand from all the research I've done. Yeah, they were panicking in a hysterics because their kids are being messed with. Right. Like I said, I can't think of a better reason to fucking panic. like you drop your kids off at a daycare or a preschool or whatever, because you expect them to get taken care of, not to be involved in some satanic ritual or, peddled to a bunch of sickos. So it's a good reason to fucking panic. I do it. Oh my God. Just the thought of like my babies being involved in something like that, I would come unglued. Oh, I would come unglued. Like I think panic implies like this sort of like helplessness, sort of. And I think people eventually felt that way, especially as everyone was like, oh, you're liars, you're liars. But I think like I would just such righteous anger. I'm even getting angry talking about it, because oh my God, the thought, like anyone watching this, even your children, the thought of something like this happening to any of you or your children gets me so angry. Like my God, it is a reason to legitimately panic, like what the fuck? Like, what the fuck are people even saying? I remember teenagers in the 80s worshiping the devil or playing around with it. Yeah, I mean, teenagers are the number one targets of this sort of stuff, even to this day. Always have been. Right. No, I actually agree with this. Now, the author of this book, Right-wing authoritarianism is a contradiction of terms. Right, I agree. Authoritarianism is always left-wing. Right. Nazis were left-wing. Communists are left-wing. The current administration that we live under now is left-wing. I mean, it's authoritarianism is always left-wing. That's why, in my opinion, genuine anarchy is always like right-wing. It's genuine right-wing. That's just my personal opinion. Not looking to get into a political discussion necessarily, though. All right, let's keep moving on. We're almost done. We're gonna wrap up here soon, but I want to get to the end of this because I think a lot of this stuff in this book is important to cover. So, Langley connections and the rise of the child abuse backlash. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Langley, Virginia, where the CIA is, the FBI, you know, all of the main offices for our intelligence. This is where we're at. So, apocalyptic magic users use inversion in their workings 100%. And this is why, you know, it's like Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals, right? You accuse the people of what you are guilty of before they can accuse you of it. That's exactly what false memory syndrome is. It's following Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Anarchy, the only true way you can have a political leaning and be a Christian, in my opinion. I agree with you 100%. And in fact, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I believe in the free exchange of goods and services between a free people in an anarchy system. But that's just me. Anarchism is far right. I'm an anarchist. Don't let the establishment lie to you about anarchism. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like I said, I'm an anarcho-capitalist at heart. That's where I'm at. That's where I always have been. It is the only logical conclusion, in my opinion. You know, the free exchange of goods and services between a free people. That's it. That's all that matters. Yes, it's all inversion, everything from the term satanic panic to everything, 100%. 100%. Yep. I completely agree. Anarchy means peace. Exactly. And it's the natural order of things. Anarchy is natural law. Natural law is anarchy. All of the things back and forth, you know. And here's the common misconception is that anarchists are against hierarchies. No. Anarchists are against unjustified or forceful hierarchies. So like the reason that the system causes so much damage is because it's an unjustifiable hierarchy. But if things are just left to be, you know, the tiger is left to hunt, the zebra is left to drink and also run the fuck away from the lion, you know, like natural order. There's nothing wrong with natural order because it just is. It isn't right or wrong. It just is. The system of government, a system of tyranny, is a system that goes against natural order. Therefore, that's why it causes so much problem. Anyways, let's get back into this before I get too sidetracked. So Langley connections and the rise of the child abuse backlash. Another expert who has dismissed McMartin as a classic witch hunt is Dr. Douglas Besharov, one of the directors of the National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect. Okay, so he's up there, okay? This is not a nobody. This is legitimately a somebody. He's a doctor, PhD, and the director of the National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect. But he is also an expert who has dismissed McMartin as a classic witch hunt. He is also a director of the rapidly right-wing American Enterprise Institute, a Washington, D.C. think tank. Left-wing, right-wing. When you're talking about Washington, D.C., it doesn't matter. They're both the same things. Two shit wings of the same shit bird. Two shit sides of the same shit coin. It's whatever. There is no left and right in Washington. To supplement his weighty credentials, Besharov writes for academic, social, and political quarterlies with long histories of collaborating with the CIA. He's collaborating with the CIA for propaganda purposes. So this is also an expert, a propaganda expert with the CIA, who is also an expert in child abuse. Imagine that. He is a Colville of Irving Kristol, a veteran CIA psychological warfare specialist. Ooh, we're going to have to look him up, aren't we? We're going to save him for another episode. However, I am going to pull him up. Died at 89. Right there. Irving Kristol, American columnist, journalist, and writer. 1920 to 2009. He was an American journalist and writer at the perfect time of Operation Mockingbird. So we will highlight him on another episode. A veteran CIA psychological warfare specialist. In 1976, the Congressional Church Committee hearings revealed that the CIA is deeply entrenched in the American press. Yeah. Some 400 journalists, it emerged at the hearings, has collaborated with the agency at least once. CIA propagandists like Besharov and Kristol provide others in the field with a scholastic support base and mold opinion on campus with such CIA-anchored academic journals as Encounter and The Public Interest, both edited by neocon Kristol. In 1986, Public Interest published a monograph by Dr. Besharov entitled Unfounded Allegations, A New Child Abuse Problem. Besharov opens with the observation of legal scholar Stanford Katz. Katz. That's an interesting last name. Anyways, that the maltreatment of children is an old as recorded history. Okay, the maltreatment of children is as old as recorded history. Infanticide, ritual sacrifice, exposure, mutilation, abandonment, brutal discipline, and the near slavery of child labor have existed in all cultures. Yeah, exactly. So Dr. Besharov, left dry-eyed by such conditions, blamed the media and mandatory reporting laws for dragging child abuse out of the closet where he seems to prefer it and blowing the severity of the problem out of proportion. So that's the problem? I mean, granted, I think the media has massive problems with all of this, but the problem is that they shone a light on it. That's the fucking problem here. Besharov's influential follow-up article, Doing Something About Child Abuse, The Need to Narrow the Grounds for State Intervention, was published in 1985 by Irving Kristol. Oh, interesting. Two propaganda experts. And the American Enterprise Institute. In it, Besharov argues that most allegations of child abuse are statistically unfounded. That is a load of shit. His slipshod use of statistics drove the Child Welfare League of America to publicly find him responsible for leading the public, quote, to believe that child abuse is leveling off, or that as reports increase, the level of substantiation decreases. Wow. The Child Welfare League of America, the CWLA, notes that the survey results indicate a, quote, substantial increase in reports and a stable rate of confirmation, directly contradicting Besharov's statistical red herring. Turning to the children removed from their homes by social workers, Besharov states flatly, quote, according to data collected by the federal government, it appears that up to half of these children were in no immediate danger at home and could have been safely left there. I would argue that things like CPS and everything is actually like way overzealous. Like they'll take kids that actually are not in danger. Granted, that's more of a recent development, I guess, in the last like 30 years or so, because, you know, so many cases of where they didn't do anything. And granted, this is not a channel that supports CPS. I think that they are a human trafficking ring, but nonetheless, I mean, yeah. Okay, that's a whole discussion for another show. According to, data, blah, 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 safely left there. Bullshit. Government data, quote unquote, data cited by Besharov derive from a study conducted by the National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect. Oh, you mean the organization that he's the director of? And mind you, this is a propagandist that works for the CIA, who is also in charge, the director of this place, and he can't come up with, shoddy statistics. What's that book? Statistics and How to Lie with Them or something? Bill Gates was quoted as saying that was one of his favorite books. Let's see. The authors of the study told New York Times reporter David Hetchler that the information is not there to support Besharov's assertion that half of all abused children left in the custody of their parents are in, quote, no immediate danger. Bullshit. I mean, yeah, the information is not there. That is correct. But the fact that they're claiming that they are in no immediate danger, also bullshit. Quote, he has used our statistics in this case to prove a point when he, Besharov, simply can't do it, a center researcher told Hetchler. When asked for his response, the AEI scholar refused to comment. By fabricating statistics, Besharov reveals himself to be a propagandist. Have unfounded allegations led to a national McCarthyite frenzy, as Besharov contends. Quote, I'm sure there are false allegations, as am I. I am sure somewhere out there are false allegations. I'm sure of it. Statistically, it has to be so. I'm sure there are false allegations, concedes David Finkelhorn, I think. I don't know how you pronounce that last name. A sociologist specializing in child abuse. Quote, I'm sure when people are caught up in false allegations, it's terrible. Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm genuinely sure it is. It can ruin your reputation for life. But in criminal cases of all kinds, quote, there's always the possibility of false allegations, and I don't think they're more severe in the area of child abuse that they are in, I want to say something innocuous, people making false allegations about having had money stolen from them or false allegations of embezzlement. Right. Who's to say that the false allegations in child abuse are so much worse than any other crime? How can they possibly quantify that to begin with? Besharov's work has given rise to such hysteria-producing diatribes as false accusations of child abuse, Could It Happen to You, Women's Day, July 8th, 1986, and Invasion of the Child Savers, No One is Safe in the War Against Abuse, Progressive, September 1985. Both are adventures in hyperbole, like Besherov's Cook's Statistics. Family Abuse by A.C. Carlson, another protege of Irving Kristol, appeared in Reason Magazine, a publication that frequently runs CIA disinformation all the fucking time, you libertarians. Reason Magazine, and honestly, I hate to throw that on libertarians because Reason's never been a libertarian outlet, like a genuinely it's not, because it's, it's funded and backed by the Koch brothers, who are tied in. They say they're libertarian, but they're not. They are not. The Koch brothers have never been libertarian. The Cato Institute, not libertarian. Reason Magazine, not libertarian. They've run libertarian pieces. I'll give them that. They have ran libertarian pieces. It's not a libertarian outlet. So I'll give that one to the libertarians. A publication that frequently runs CIA disinformation. Heschler writes that Carlson has gone, quote, even further than Besherov, inflating the unfounded rate beyond belief. Erroneously, in fact, Carlson laments that, quote, the victims pile up like corpses on a pyre, and commiserates needlessly with the, quote, the skyrocketing number of parents and teachers falsely accused of child abuse. Ritual abuse skeptics with CIA connections are covering up the latest phase in agency-sponsored mind control experimentation. For 30 years, agency scientists have collaborated with cults, many of them funded by the government, to conceal the development of mind control technology. Jim Jones and the People's Temple were one product of this alliance. McMartin was another. Both episodes have been buried in disinformation. The campaign to mislead the public about ritual abuse is ambitious, rivaling the campaign to conceal the facts in the murder of John F. Kennedy. Damn, now that is a hell of a paragraph right there. And in fact, I'm sorry, but you guys are going to sit with me for just one sec. That's going out as a tweet. That paragraph is going out as a damn tweet. It's a little long. That's okay. That is okay. You know why it's okay? Because I am panicking. I am straight panicking. I am in a panic. And so are all of you. You all of you are panicking. We're all panicking. Okay? We're all panicking. Let's see here. Let me make sure I give. Let's see. It's oh, can't remember the title of the book. Let's see. I'll come back to that later. I don't want to keep you wonderful folks waiting all night. So it's oops. Let's see. Okay, let's see here. The smokescreen is also explained in part by reports implicating the CIA in child prostitution for the purposes of political blackmail, a variation on the age-old sex trap. CIA agents have been directly involved in organized child sex rings. In Enslaved, 1991, an investigation of the worldwide slavery underground, Gordon Thomas found agency participation in the kidnap of Latin American children flown across the border in light aircraft and sold to child sex rings or sold so their organs could be used in transplants. Some of the pilots, Thomas discovered, made 2 or 3 flights a day. The more experienced used Beech 18s because of the aircraft's capacity and maneuverability. The majority of the flyers were mercenaries who had flown for the CIA. Interesting. Gordon Thomas is a great resource, by the way, for anyone who is curious. He is a great resource. I have used his books for many of my research sessions. In fact, I have one of his books. It's called Journey into Madness, and it's all about the medical establishment and CIA doctors and everything and how they abuse the medical establishment. Highly recommend it. Let's see. I want to pull this up real quick, though. I've never heard of this book, Enslaved. Let's see. Gordon Thomas. Let's see. Enslaved. Boom. Right there. You can get a copy of it. Looks like for $60. Hardcover for $60. It's actually not bad. Or looks like you can get used copies, paperback versions for looks like as cheap as $6. Cool. So there you go. I highly recommend pretty much anything Gordon Thomas. It's really good stuff. Anyways, back over here. Ray Bucky's father. There we go. Now I can see the stream. Okay. Ray Bucky's father, Charles, worked for Hughes Aircraft. There is an old adage that holds Hughes is CIA. Charles Bucky built the McMartin preschool. The tunnels unearthed beneath the preschool were dug in 1966, the year the school was built. Bucky Sr. testified on the stand that there were no tunnels. The media has been completely silent on this score, which brings us to... Oh, shit, is that the tunnels? Oh, shit, is that the tunnels? I think it's the fucking tunnels. There's a picture of the fucking tunnels. There's a picture of the tunnels. Anyone who's curious, I have a copy. Let's see, it's on my desktop. I keep it on my desktop for a reason. We don't have time to go through it today. As soon as we start digging into McMartin, like seriously start digging into it, we are going to go through this document. But it is the archaeological survey done at McMartin, proving that that there is tunnels under McMartin. So just throwing that out there. Let's see. So this picture, yeah, anyone who's also curious, Psychic Dictatorship in the USA is the book that we're reading from. So in case you guys are curious, that is the book. Let's see here. Can actually find this pretty easy. Alex Constantine. That's right. Psychic Dictatorship in the USA. You can find paperback versions for $30.35. The Kindle version for only $10. Kindle versions suck in my opinion, but hey, whatever. But yeah, Psychic Dictatorship in the US, sorry. This is where all this information is coming from. Alex Constantine is also another great resource. So, let's see here. Give me just one sec. See, Alex Constantine. He's written many great books. I also highly recommend Virtual Government, CIA Mind Control Operations in America. Also another phenomenal book by Alex. Let's see here. Okay. There we go. There we go. This arch was pounded through a concrete footing in the foundation beneath the McMartin preschool. Best estimates date the digging of the tunnels to circa 1966, the year the preschool was built by Charles Buckey, father of the key defendant. Photo was from Dr. Roland Summit. Now we're going to get to the tunnels cover up. Let's see here. Let's check in with you guys real quick. We call those mule tunnels for smugglers now. Yep. Yeah, I mean, he was buying guns all over the place, but definitely the western states. Utah, Idaho, Nevada, Wyoming. Yeah, Waco was a headquarter for MK Ultra testing. So check this out. This is incredibly interesting. It's the property that butts up right like butt to butt against Mount Carmel, has an airstrip on it. That property that butts up butt to butt with Mount Carmel, that airstrip was being used by the CIA to run guns, drugs, and children. So, some intense shit right there. So yeah, Waco is fucking wild. One of the many headquarters all around the country for MK Ultra, smuggling, all the same shit. You know? Because here's the thing. The intelligence agencies are the fucking criminals. Like, granted, there's people who are criminals that are not intelligence. Yes. Like, I get that. But they are, like, the criminal underground is either criminals, or they are working with intelligence, or they are former intelligence. Like, I mean, the criminal underground doesn't exist in its current iteration without the existence of intelligence, period. I don't know what to tell people. Ooh, that's a good question. Do you think Randy Weaver was part of the Delta Force at Jonestown? You know what? I don't know. I've heard a lot of different theories about, you know, who took care of the people down at Jonestown. And hopefully you guys know what I mean by take care of. But yeah, you know, it's I don't really know. I'll have to think about that. I will have to think about that because I don't know. I want to think the best of Randy Weaver though. Alex is a she. Right. That's actually really funny. I have to watch that movie now. Randy Weaver's story is literally First Blood's plot to a T. Randy was a wild guy. I agree. And I mean, he was definitely a part of intelligence and all of this stuff. I think he was definitely sheep dipped to some extent. I do not believe that he stayed in. I think that there was a certain amount of him that was like programmed. But I mean, he was hostile to all those guys. I also think that he was naive in many ways, which is what got him wrapped up in all of this to begin with, thinking, and I mean, so what? He sawed off a barrel a few inches too short. Like, I don't know. It's just crazy. Like, go fuck yourselves. It's not, I don't know. I think all firearm laws are, invasions of the Second Amendment anyways. So, I'm not a good person to, be like, oh, he shouldn't have sawed off that barrel. No, I don't give a shit. Saw off the barrel on your shotgun. I don't give a shit. Saw it all the way off for all I care. But yeah, Jim Jones was an avowed socialist and communist who used the People's Temple as a front to promote his radical political ideology. 100%. 100%. Well, and he was a lot more than that too. He was definitely tied to intelligence. He was running operations down in Ghana and plenty of other places down in South America. Like he was running operations, so he had ties down there already. But I mean, he did. Did he really believe these things? I don't know. Maybe. It's possible, but like Uncle Ted said, could have been a completely CIA front. But I mean, he was stealing money from his followers and everything. Who knows? Who knows? Probably both, if I'm being honest. Okay. The tunnel cover-up. El Paso reporter Debbie Nathan. Let's see. I keep bumping Abomination, and I want to stop doing that. Okay. El Paso reporter Debbie Nathan, utterly convinced of the defendant's innocence, entered the fray in the Village Voice and has appeared in newspapers across the country. And wait. Okay, Alex is a she. RR channel. Like, really? Alex is a she? Nah, that's fucking nonsense. That's fucking nonsense. Get the hell out of here. Also, is this like the RR channel? Is this the RR channel? Have you now come over to my channel, RR? Because if so, I'm going to make you your own bumper, just like JJ did. It'll be similar, but it will be my own. Anyways, let's see. So she entered the fray in the Village Voice and has appeared in newspapers across the country, including the LA Weekly, Sacramento Bee, San Francisco Chronicle, and elsewhere. She has been honored with the Free Press Association HL Mencken Award. I don't know. And Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism Prize. Wow, sounds like a fucking glowy. Oh shit. So it is RR channel. Actually, good to see you in here. RR aka JJ. That's funny. That's funny. Oh, funny. Gonna have to make you your own bumper, just like JJ has. Okay, so this woman, Debbie Nathan, she's a woman we should also look into. In fact, let me pull this bitch up too. Debbie Nathan. I don't know why I thought of her voice like that. She is a leading proponent of the mass hysteria thesis, the notion that many child abuse allegations are unfounded. Her cavalier dismissal is not supported by objective research. Dr. David Chadwick of San Diego's Children's Hospital, in the Journal of the American Medical Association, May 26, 1989, contends that 8% of all abuse allegations are unfounded, and most are rather easily distinguishable in a careful review. So let's read that again. So Dr. David Chadwick contends that 8% of all abuse allegations are unfounded. Okay, so that still leaves 92%. And most are rather easily distinguishable in a careful review. At times, it is difficult to tell whether Nathan is a skeptic or an apologist of sexual abuse. Most pedophilia, she contends, quote, consists of caressing and fondling. Most children, for most children, these experiences appear to be at best confusing, at worst traumatic, but others seem to willingly participate, and some adults recall that while still legally minors, they accept and even welcomed sex with grown-ups. Wow, what a piece of shit this woman is. Nathan doesn't condemn the abuser. After all, quote, compared to the abuse of a child protection movement gone mad, could incest be any worse? What a lowlife. Holy shit. Alex Cockburn is a Nathan supporter and has on occasion gotten caught up with her pro-pedophilic obfuscations, as in this diatribe from The Nation for March 8th, 1993. As a Miami-based anthropologist, Rafael Martinez, consultant to the Dade County Medical Examiner's Office, told Nathan, in traditional Latin American cultures, quote, kissing and hugging is common with children up to 3 or 4 years old. It is common for families to kiss children all over the place, including on the genitals. Get the fuck out of here. Fuck you. Okay, first of all, I'm not even going to argue whether this is or is not part of a culture somewhere. Yeah, I'm sure it is. But in this country, that doesn't fucking fly. Some cultures are better than others, period. The practice of kissing children down there, once again, don't want to push YouTube too far tonight, may be traditional in some cultures, but it is frowned upon in the Manhattan Beach Preschool Licensing Board. Right. So in California, I don't give a shit if it's part of your culture in South or Central America. Up here, no, this does not fly. Alex Cockburn's skepticism towards ritual abuse was summed up in an editorial appearing in the February 8th, 1990 Wall Street Journal, The McMartin Case. Indict the children, jail the parents. What the fuck? The son of a British spy and a lucrative defender of the Warren Commission. Oh, fuck you. The Warren Commission? Really? Cockburn has such strong feelings about the McMartin case that he once publicly maligned an editor of the LA Weekly for refusing to print a recommendation that, quote, the tots bearing false witness in the McMartin preschool case should be jailed for perjury. Wow. What a piece of shit. His primary source on the subject of child abuse, Debbie Nathan, is herself something of a false witness. In what McMartin started, the ritual abuse hoax, Village Voice, June 12, 1990, Miss Nathan moaned that children at McMartin told of being molested in tunnels under the school. None were ever found, but until recently, parents were still digging. In fact, 30 days before Nathan's article appeared, the tunnels were discovered beneath the preschool by scientists hired by the parents, confirming the testimony of the children. The project employed a team of archaeologists from local universities, 2 geologists, a professional excavator, a carbon dating specialist, and a professional photographer to document the dig's progress and findings. The longest tunnel was 6 feet beneath the preschool, running eastward 45 feet from the southwest wall and 10 feet along the north wall. The tunnel walls were held in place by support beams and a roof of plywood and tar paper. A branch of the tunnel led to a 9-foot chamber, quote, or the secret room described by the children, question mark. Another extended from the preschool to the triplex next door, surfacing beneath a rollaway bathtub. Forensic tests on thousands of objects found at the site, including 200 animal bones, were conducted. Until the tunnels were found, the LA Times covered the dig with a smirk. I bet they fucking did. And then the tunnels were found, and then they said, oh shit. Critics of the excavation pointed out that District Attorney Ira Rainier had already searched for the tunnels. So, oh wait, missed a whole part. The parents and scientists involved were portrayed as crackpots until the existence of the tunnels was substantiated by experts, at which time the newspaper abruptly stopped reporting the story. The public was left with the false impression that the search had failed. Wrong. Critics of the excavation pointed out that the district attorney, Ira Rainier, had already searched for the tunnels. At best, this is a half-truth. Rainier's team tore up a bit of floor tile, but did not even bother to remove the glue that held it in place. The DA's team, as it happens, dug up the lot next to the preschool, not underneath. Actually, McMartin mother, Jackie McGauley, I think is how you pronounce her name, who supervised the excavation, notes, quote, "We were the first to dig on the property," end quote. The search for the tunnels was undertaken with ground-penetrating radar to probe the inconsistencies in the soil. A bell-shaped area of disturbed earth was discovered along the foundation of the west wall. The tunnel beneath the opposite wall was unearthed, precisely where the children said it would be found all along. Beneath the foundation, a passage had been knocked through the concrete. It was interesting, McGauley told LA's Pacifica Radio. Quote, because a lot of the children development specialists, psychiatrists, and therapists across the country thought that it was some psychological phenomenon that the kids would talk about tunnels. Somehow that idea got planted, and that they all had these theories as to why the kids would talk about something like this. We'll come back to that picture in a minute. Obviously couldn't be true, and the district attorney at the time just flatly did not believe it and really didn't want to look. Neither did the press. And once again, for anyone curious, I have this archaeological document. I have the document that they were able to put together. I have copies of it, many copies of it. We will be going through this. We will be going through it because here's the thing. They always pointed to, oh, well, the tunnels don't exist, so therefore, McMartin was a lie. The tunnels don't exist. Tunnels don't exist. All the kids lied. Bullshit. Tunnels existed, and they found some pretty incriminating shit down there. Okay, so this is actually from the report itself. Let's see. In fact, I wonder, can I... Let's see here. Let's just... Okay, here we go. Yeah, like I said, we will go through this report, but here's the entrance into the tunnels. I mean, here's where the tunnels were going, right? The tunnels existed. The tunnels fucking existed. So I don't know what to tell people who are, who don't believe any of these children. The tunnels fucking existed. A cottage industry of child abuse debunkers. We're going to work our way through this real quick and get out of here. So, modern witch hunt, child abuse charges. Bald, a Wall Street Journal editorial for February 22nd, 1993. But the tone of the column was dry and high-toned. Dr. Richard Gardner, professor of clinical psychiatry at Columbia University and MK Ultra School, cautioned that, quote, a great wave of hysteria had gripped the country. Oh yeah, what's the hysteria? In the early 90s, the mass hysteria premise was touted by big city newspapers and magazines of elite stature, all attempting to persuade, with evident bias and inflated expert opinion, that false child abuse charges were endemic. This school of disinformation coaxed public opinion with dire extortions of a child abuse witch hunt. In his Wall Street Journal comments, Dr. Gardner warned of a great wave of hysteria by, quote, by far the worst, end quote, in history, the most devastating. Quote, with regard to the number of lives that have been destroyed and families that have been disintegrated, end quote. Gardner's basic argument is that allegations of child abuse are often fabricated by parents embroiled in custody disputes. Another explanation not supported by statistics, the ones Gardner ignores. The one study found that a mere 2% of all abuse accusations stem from visitation and custody disputes. Other researchers have placed the percentage slightly higher. Let's see, I just wanted to take Dr. Richard Gardner, another person we should go highlight. Pull him up before we get too far. Boom. American child psychiatrist, died in 2003. Okay. As for mass hysteria, one of the earliest promoters of this thesis was Ralph Underwager. Co-author was with his wife, Holinda Wakefield, of accusations of child sexual abuse. Few physicians, quote, by the way, few physicians will wish to invest the time and money, $70, to own or even read this book, complained a reviewer for the Journal of the American Medical Association. Quote, it is of little value to those who work with abused children, except as it may be important to be aware of all points of view. The book will doubtless be useful to attorneys defending persons accused of sexual abuse of children. It appears to have been written particularly for that audience. The authors cite over 700 references, but they do not really review this body of literature. When a given reference fails to support their viewpoint, they simply misstate the conclusion. Interesting. Since 1974, Dr. Underwager has been the director of the Institute for Psychological Therapies in Northfield, Minnesota. He has since been frequently called upon to provide expert testimony. In the late 80s, he spent 60 to 70% of his professional life shuttling between courtrooms. He is the author of numerous articles debunking the credibility of ritual abuse victims. Dr. Underwager has frequently been cited by Debbie Nathan as a leading authority on the subject. Lisa Manschel, author of Nap Time, an account of the New Jersey ritual abuse case, found that, quote, child sexual abuse was not his field of knowledge, but it was his field of courtroom practice. He proliferated the opinion, no one knows how to tell accurately whether a child's been abused throughout the nation's courts. He has testified in most states and by satellite in foreign countries before at least 200 juries. Dr. Underwager once stated on the stand that he considered it more desirable that 1,000 children in abuse situations are not discovered than for one innocent person to be convicted wrongly. Holy shit. Oh, what a piece of shit. Dr. Underwager, a founder of the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, is an ordained Lutheran minister. He believes he once said in an interview appearing in an Amsterdam journal for pedophiles that sex with children is not only acceptable, but it is God's will. Question: is choosing pedophilia for you a responsible choice for the individual? Dr. Ralph Underwager answered, certainly, it is responsible. What I have been struck by, as I have come to know more about and understand people who choose pedophilia, is that they let themselves be too much defined by other people. That is usually an essential negative definition. Pedophiles spend a lot of time and energy defending their choice. I don't think a pedophile needs to do that. What a piece of shit. Okay, here's something else. Here, granted, it's an old black and white photo, but this is an outside entrance to the tunnels beneath the preschool, partially filled in with soil foreign to the site. Interesting, ain't it? Underwager insisted that pedophiles, quote, should attack the concept, the image, the picture of the pedophile as an evil, wicked, and reprehensible exploiter of children. Following the interview, Underwager was forced to resign as a founding member of the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, which is largely directed by CIA psychiatrists with backgrounds in mind control experimentation. The London Observer for December 12th, 1993 reported that Dr. Underwager denied ever condoning sex with children. He added, however, that scientific evidence had demonstrated, quote, this is going to be fucking awful, I'm sure, had demonstrated that, quote, 60% of women sexually abused as children reported that the experience was good for them, end quote. He contended the same could be true for boys involved with pedophiles. Wow. And on this, I think, is where we're going to end it for tonight. So, I titled tonight's show, The Influence Industrial Complex, Satanic Panic is Real, episode 007. These are the type of people who have perpetuated this lie. They're the ones who came up with the lie. They're the ones who pushed the lie through books and articles. And almost every single one of these people are a piece of shit. Either they are pedophiles themselves, like Underwager, or they're apologists, or they just live in some form of fucking denial that this could ever be a thing. And what's interesting, I mean, all of this stuff is happening 93, 94, 95, all at the very same time that the West Memphis 3 case is going on. So this is kind of why they go hand in hand, right? This is Satanic Panic. The early 90s was when McMartin was dismissed, charges were dropped, and it was just, it was portrayed as mass hysteria. But that's just not the case. That's not how any of this happened. That's not how any of these things went down. I mean, it's just absurd. But the experts, this is what I wanted to look at. This was the point of tonight's episode. I wanted to look at the people, the deniers, the people who did not believe these things about ritual abuse or any of these other things. This is what I wanted to look at. This is what I wanted to talk about. Because we need to look at the people who perpetuate these ideas. Are they good people? Do they have good intentions? I don't think so. I think all of them were a piece of shit. I think it's varying degrees of pieces of shit, but pieces of shit nonetheless. So, and we're going to keep looking at these people. Like I said, we're going to dig into who a lot of these people are. I want to know who they are, right? I mean, there's psychological operation experts. There's, CIA agents. There's all sorts of people that are connected to this. And, it's just sickening. It is truly sickening, in my opinion. But it is genuinely important to look at where these ideas come from. That's why we needed to do this. And that's why we're going to continue to do this. We need to know where these ideas come from. And we also need to know why they continue to be perpetuated. Like, what's happening? Why are they still being perpetuated? It's crazy. Well, I am here to be able to put a stop to it. Thus, I am only one man, and I can only do so much. But you are also only one person, whether male or female. And with all of us, we can make a pretty good dent. We can also turn one person into two, two into four, four into eight, so on, and so on. Which is exactly also why I could use all of your guys' help in hitting the like, share, subscribe, follow, all of these things. When you hit that subscribe, make sure you hit the little bell and make sure you get notifications for every time I have a new episode. You know, these things are important. This is how we get this out there. And I mean, the point is to do this for the survivors. Do this for the kids. This matters a lot to me. That these kids will one day be able to see justice. But we can't do that if people just think that, for one, that nobody cares. We need to show that people actually do care. And another thing is I would like to see a day when more survivors feel comfortable to come forward. That's another hope that another thing I would like to see, which is one reason I do what I can on this platform, because I mean, I want survivors to be able to feel like they can come forward and that they will be believed. I want perpetrators of this heinous crime to not feel like it's okay to come out and be totally accepted. Pedophiles should not be accepted into society. And there is a massive movement to accept these people into society for some reason, and I don't quite understand that. I mean, other than the fact that this is kind of like this has been the plan for a long time, you know. But we shouldn't accept these people. And we shouldn't accept that their abuse is just nothing, like it doesn't exist. Get the fuck out of here. People are not okay with pedophiles. People are not okay with children being hurt. And I'm not going to let these people hide behind this smokescreen any longer. So, and I think all of you watching, either you're watching live or watching the replay, I think you can agree. Otherwise, I don't think you would be here. And with that, I would like to say thank you all so much for joining on another episode of Rise to Liberty. Honestly, thank you all for tuning in. You guys, you know, could have been anywhere, but you watched this, and guys, keep coming back. I appreciate that. I do this, guys, for you, or my brain is fried. I do this for you guys, gals. And honestly, there's, you know, my message is resonating with you guys. And I appreciate that. It makes me keep doing this. So, if you want to be able to help anything that I do, there's a couple of ways to be able to do that. The best way, like I said, like, share, subscribe, follow, hit the bell, notifications, all those things. Also, you can go over to allmylinks.com/rise to liberty. It has all of my main active platforms. You can also head on over to buymeacoffee.com/deprogram. And from there, you can give a donation. You can buy me a coffee. I'd really appreciate that, honestly, because I need as much caffeine as possible to keep this running. So you can do a one-time donation or monthly recurring donation. You can also head on over to Ko-Fi and go do the same thing. One-time donation, monthly donation, as little as $5 on either platform. Also have an option for Bitcoin people. You can head on over to allmylinks.com/rise to liberty and do that as well. If you want to get something, which I understand, you can head on over to risetoliberty.store and go pick up some sweet merch. Some sweet merch. So I believe we have passed the time for standard shipping. So if you go buy anything for Christmas, standard shipping, it will not get there in time, I believe. I'm pretty sure we have passed that. But you can still get express shipping for the next several days. So if you do get something for Christmas, you have to order express shipping to make sure it's there on time. Otherwise, once again, the best way to help, and it's free. It takes only just a few minutes. Share this show. Clip this show. Just make sure and give me credit for it. Make sure that people can find me. Shout me out. Give me a follow. Send this to somebody through email. Text it to somebody. Follow me on multiple platforms. Make sure you can't lose touch. It doesn't mean I'm going to have YouTube forever. You know, any platform is not guaranteed. So make sure you follow me on multiples. Like, share, subscribe, follow, all of those things. The next show will be on Monday, 5:30 p.m. 5:30 p.m. Mountain, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That will be on Monday. Laurel Canyon is what we will be covering. Then we've got Already Dead on Tuesday. Then we have Satanic Panic on Wednesday. Satanic Panic is real on Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Mountain, 7:30 Eastern. And then Friday as well. I have a different show for Friday, so it's not going to be another Satanic Panic next Friday. You'll just have to wait and see what it is, but will be related. It's just not... Friday is my loosey-goosey days, so I can do whatever I want on as far as the subject-wise on those days. Anyways, I think that's it. I would like to thank you all once again so much for tuning in. And until next time, stay free.